What's going on, you guys? It is your boy, the American F1 fan, Eric Ringgold here, and silly season is upon us. It's that time of the year where the drivers market gets absolutely crazy with rumors flying around and drivers may be moving teams. But it's time for my drivers' predictions for 2026. So like I said, it is silly season, and these are my drivers' predictions for 2026. These are purely my opinion, and I would love to go for shock value and to really give you some shock names that are going to go to different teams. But I had to think of this purely from a strategical standpoint from each individual team and what they may possibly want. Now, there are 4 teams that their lineup isn't going to change for 2025. That's obviously McLaren and Ferrari. McLaren's got Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris locked up for the future. Got Ferrari with Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, who are locked up there. You've got Williams, who've got Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. As much as I would love to say that Alex may move on, Alex has been loyal to Williams over these last few years, and I think he was just waiting for the new regulations to come out. And then obviously Haas with Esteban Ocon and Oliver Bierman, they are locked in there as well. But now, let's move on to some of the other teams and where we think drivers may go. So I think the first driver we have to talk about, not necessarily team so far, is Max Verstappen. There are so many rumors floating around about him maybe staying at Red Bull, maybe moving to Mercedes. He's got a big decision to make, especially this coming summer. His contract will basically allow him to opt out at the end of this season if he falls too much further behind in the driver standings. And all signs are pointing to that he may possibly move on from Red Bull. Now, there are a lot of teams that would love to have what could arguably be considered one of the greatest Formula One drivers of our time. Who wouldn't want his skill and who wouldn't want his talent on their team? But is it a Mercedes? Is it Red Bull? Who's it going to be? So we're going to talk about Mercedes first. And as much as I would love to say that Max moves over to Mercedes and, really shakes this team up, I just don't see Toto Wolff at this point in time, who you just brought up, Kimi Antonelli, to basically be the up-and-coming driver, the Lewis Hamilton type for your team. I can't foresee that you're going to all of a sudden sit him. And with George Russell, he's proven to be a talent at Mercedes, and he's proven to be a talent in F1. I just don't foresee a circumstance where, yes, it is Max Verstappen, but you've got 2 young talents in George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. There's not a thought in mind that you would have Max team up with George and then have Kimi as the reserve driver. That's not going to happen because I've seen that rumor floating around quite a bit. I think Mercedes sticks with the driver lineup of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Why change what isn't broken with the team? Yes, Max Verstappen is a one-of-a-kind talent, but George Russell and Kimi Antonelli have worked so well as a pairing together. I just think Toto would be, thoughtless and brainless to all of a sudden break up such a pairing like this. So now let's talk about the Red Bull situation. We'll talk about Red Bull and VCARB because they're basically one and the same. One is the main team, one is the junior team. And there are lots of rumors flying around both these teams about who they could possibly be sitting. Maybe Max stays at Red Bull, waits for the new regulations to come in and see what kind of car the Red Bull team can develop for him. But I just think that I think Max's time at Red Bull is slowly but surely coming to a close. I think Max wants a new challenge, and I just don't foresee Red Bull, who basically let Adrian Newey, their best car designer that they've ever had, have led them to multiple championships in this decade and in prior decades. They let him move on, and we've seen that Red Bull has been really hard pressed to put out a car that can be competitive for both Max and the second driver of that team, whether it's been Sergio Perez, whether it's been Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda. We've seen that second driver has had tons of problems in that car and not been able to extract the full potential out of that car whereas Max now isn't even pulling out that full potential. So when you look at the Red Bull team and you look at the VCARB team, who are they going to seat for 2026? I think with VCARB, it's quite simple. I think Liam Lawson feels very comfortable in the VCARB car. We've seen kind of a resurgence from him in the last couple races at VCARB. I think he stays there. I don't know if he necessarily... I mean, yeah, everybody wants to race for Red Bull because it's such a huge name within Formula One with all the history behind it with Sebastian Vettel and obviously Max Verstappen. But I think Liam stays at VCARB for another season and just it really kind of puts his best foot forward with that team. And I think, you know, obviously with Red Bull designing the cars and you're able to pull some of those ideas over to VCARB, I think it suits him well that, you know, if you wanted to potentially move him later on in the season 2026 or maybe after 2026, you could definitely do that. But I think Liam Lawson stays at VCARB for the time being. And I think his teammate is going to be Arvid Lindblad. Now, we've heard so much hullabaloo around his talent and what he's been able to show in the lower formula categories. He made the big jump last season into F3. Now he's in F2 this season and putting on some really, really good results in F2. He's still not up at the top of the table as far as the Drivers' Championship in F2 goes, but he's basically been labeled the next potential Max Verstappen. And I think all signs with everything that Red Bull's doing with, you know, putting in the waiver request to get him his super license, to allow him to test in the Red Bull machinery, whether it's Red Bull or VCARB, allowing him to get that super license waiver and allow him to test in those cars, only points to the fact that they're going to move him to at least the VCARB team in 2026. And I think Liam Lawson and Arvid Lindblad being together, I think, one, Arvid's going to be able to learn a little bit from Liam Lawson and, you know, kind of the mistakes that I think even Liam knows he made when he made that jump to Red Bull and maybe be able to pass on some of that knowledge to Arvid. So maybe he doesn't, you know, flame out if he makes the move to Red Bull too soon. But then talking about Red Bull, everybody gives Yuki Tsunoda this horrible, you know, oh, he's such a horrible driver. I don't know why they moved him up to the team. Well, I think we're starting to see that it wouldn't have mattered who they moved up into that second seat at Red Bull. I think any of those second drivers would have been having the same issues that we saw Sergio Perez have in 2024. And I think Yuki sticks around with the team for one more season, especially because I think he does have skill. We've seen it in the VCARB team, the amount of skill that Yuki Tsunoda has. And I just think that it would be hard-pressed to see Red Bull let a talent like that potentially move away and go to a better team or a better engine supplier. So I think that they keep Yuki Tsunoda around. Now, I think that means that Max Verstappen leaves Red Bull, and I think Isaac Hadjar makes the step up from VCARB into the main Red Bull team for 2025. We've seen Isaac Hadjar is a really good talent. I think there were some questions from some fans, you know, that are fans of Red Bull of whether or not his talent was going to be able to translate into F1. And we've seen it where he's multiple times qualified a VCARB car where it probably should not have been, getting it into Q3 several times, top 5, top 6. Like, Isaac's got talent, and I think Red Bull would be much appreciated to bring that kind of a talent and to pair him along with Yuki, because I think Yuki and Isaac were doing really good together at VCARB for the little time that we saw them together, and why not bring that up to the main team? Which means Max Verstappen's not going back to Red Bull. So moving on to the Audi team, as we know, Audi's going to be stepping up to Formula One for the 2026 season. We see Kick Sauber go away, and we thought that Carlos Sainz may make that move to Audi because obviously his father has such huge ties with Audi. But we also have to wonder, does Audi stick alongside the likes of what Kick Sauber was starting to build, you know, with the 2025 season, with Gabriel Bortoleto basically, being a rookie who, for the first couple races of the season was absolutely nowhere. There were talks that, some minor talks that maybe Gabriel just wasn't quite ready yet for Formula One. Nico Hulkenberg has been another surprise for Kick Sauber. He's done it the last 2 seasons. He did it with Haas. Now he's doing it with Kick Sauber. Does maybe Audi stick along those lines, or do they maybe try to dive into the F1 pool and try to find some guys to bring into the team that maybe not be such huge names, but will definitely bring talent to the team and definitely bring a bit of experience to the team to where they can maybe develop the car the right way? I think Audi stays the same. I think Audi sticks with Nico Hulkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. I think Gabriel Bortoleto has slowly but surely gotten his feet, has really gotten his feet wet, has gotten his head underneath the car and what Kick Sauber has been doing with this car. And Mattia Binotto has been coming out and saying how Gabriel is starting to come along and is really starting to help the team out, not only from a point standpoint and in the constructor standings, but also just from a development standpoint. And obviously, Nico Hulkenberg, again, going to be a guy that, he's literally that guy that when you need experience, you need somebody that can bring a car where it probably shouldn't be at times. Nico Hulkenberg is the guy that you need to bring in. And I think Audi realizes that. And I don't think Audi steps away from what Kick Sauber has already been building going into 2026. And I think they keep their lineup the same. So now we move on to Alpine. Now, this has been, I think, the biggest mess we have possibly ever seen in Formula One, where it is literally a carousel of who's who of drivers that Alpine can bring in to potentially run the car. We've seen the likes of Jack Doohan. We've seen the likes of Franco Colapinto. We've seen the likes in the past of an Esteban Ocon come in, get tossed. We've seen the likes of Fernando Alonso come in and get tossed. But obviously now with Flavio Briatore running this team, it's one of those that we just have to get used to it. Flavio Briatore is back in Formula One. As much as a lot of people say, no, he doesn't deserve to be back in the sport, he needs to be gone, he's here. He's here and he's not going anywhere. But Flavio knows one thing, and he does know talent that's on the F1 grid. And you've got to think, what possible talent could he bring to Alpine that he knows very well, he has worked with in the past, and he knows that can extract things out of the car? And especially with Alpine moving over to Mercedes power unit next season, you've got to get a driver in there that is going to not only be able to extract what they need to out of the car, but be able to get whoever they're going to have as their young reserve driver. They're going to have to be able to teach them well enough about the car to get them ready for, potential seating in the next year or two. Pierre Gasly stays with Alpine. I think Alpine and Pierre Gasly is a match made in heaven for them. They love Pierre Gasly. It's a French driver with a French team. Pierre Gasly has done things with that car that absolutely is mind-boggling with as badly developed as that car has been and the low power output in the engine that they have. But their second driver is going to be Fernando Alonso, returning to Alpine, returning to team up with Flavio Briatore. And I know it's going to bring back horrible memories of Crashgate from Singapore and the absolute shit show that ended up being. But I think in regards of everything else, Flavio knows Fernando Alonso. He knows he's a former world champion. He knows that he can bring along talent that may not be quite ready for Formula One and really kind of coach him along, because we've seen it with Fernando at Aston Martin. He's been able to sometimes extract things out of Lance Stroll that I don't think many other drivers would have been able to do. And you've got Paul Aaron in the pipeline as the guy that's basically being tabbed for that seat in the future. Why not bring in a former world champion like Fernando Alonso for Paul Aaron to learn from, and really to learn from Pierre Gasly as well? Two really talented drivers that I think once you put a Mercedes power unit in that Alpine, they may be able to shock some people. So that leaves us with two teams left to talk about. That's Aston Martin and Cadillac. Obviously, Cadillac being the new team on the grid. I think with Cadillac, all signs are pointing to Valtteri Bottas being one of the drivers for Cadillac. I mean, it's been no secret that we've watched Valtteri and all the things he puts out on social media, on his personal social media. He has literally done everything but worn the Cadillac shirt, announced delivery for 2026, shown up, like, he's literally done everything you possibly could to announce that he's driving for the Cadillac team in 2026. So I think it's silly for us to think that he would not drive for Cadillac next season. But I think the second driver is someone that I think we all owe a huge apology to, and that is Sergio Perez. I think Sergio Perez gets paired with Valtteri at Cadillac. I just think that Sergio, we all finally realized that Red Bull second seat was basically a curse, and we now see that it's not necessarily Sergio's talent. We saw Sergio's talent peek through at times through that Red Bull car that was god-awful for him to drive, but we blamed him for literally not being able to do anything when now we realize that whoever's that second driver at Red Bull is literally driving a car that was designed for Max Verstappen in the very early going. And I think we've all finally realized that Sergio Perez does have talent to be in Formula One. And I think this year off for Sergio and for, teams and other drivers to see that Sergio does have talent. And I don't think it was him being a bad driver at Red Bull. I think teams are going to see that he's a driver that needs to still be in Formula One. So that brings us to our final team, Aston Martin. And I know what you're saying to yourselves. Well, where's Max? Where's Max? Where's Max? Here he is. I think we all sit here and think that, when Adrian Newey got announced that he was leaving Red Bull, there was talks that he was going to go to Mercedes, maybe Ferrari, maybe make the move to McLaren. We never heard really any of those, further midfield teams until he was literally basically signed for Aston Martin. That's when we started hearing the rumors that Adrian was going to Aston Martin. And one of the things that Lawrence Stroll is no stranger of, and that's throwing money to whoever needs it to bring them into the team. He threw tons of money at Adrian Newey to bring him to a car that is going to have a Honda power unit in 2026. They're bringing Honda back to Formula One. Adrian Newey knows how to build a car around a Honda engine. And Max Verstappen had his best years when Honda was the power unit runner at Red Bull. And he also had his best years when Adrian Newey was the designer of the car. Because Adrian Newey is a mastermind when it comes to designing the car. And Max is going to want to be with somebody he feels comfortable with, that he knows can develop a car that is going to be competitive and is going to basically chase and give him this best shot at a World Drivers' Championship. And Lawrence is not. I mean, he is going to throw whatever he can at Max Verstappen to bring him in. And I think Max is going to feel the most comfortable with Adrian Newey and with that Honda power unit. And so I think he comes to Aston Martin to drive as the first driver. And Lance Stroll is going to be the second driver. We all know it. I mean, it's sad to say, and it's nothing against Lance Stroll. We do see talent from time to time, but then we see his just brain dead stupidity come out in times. And I think if there's any driver on the grid at this point that could potentially bring out the last little bit of talent that Lance has, it's Max Verstappen. And I think Max, to a certain extent, actually does like Lance. Lance is kind of like Max to a certain extent. Lance, it tries to shy away from the limelight. He doesn't like to do too much in the way of talking, about the car, talking about his personal life. Whereas, Max is sometimes the same way. We obviously know that, he's got his first child, but we also just see him on, on YouTube, on Twitch, just having fun. And I think Max Verstappen is a guy that Lance may be able to feel a lot more comfortable around. And so I think pairing Max with Lance is going to be Lawrence's last attempt to really keep Lance in Formula One before he has to make the difficult decision that Lance may just not be shaped up for Formula One. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of my driver tier list. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Are my predictions out there? Do they sound sane? Where do you guys think drivers will be for the 2026 season? Let me know that in the comment section down below. Guys, as always, hit that like button. It helps push this video out to more and more Formula One fans. And guys, if you are new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world. We're over 1,000 subscribers. We're now on the chase for 2,000. So hit that subscribe button for me. It helps me out. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And guys, for the American F1 fan, I'm Eric Ringel, signing off.